We're working on a truck that's got a lot of after treatment problems, and we did a data log, and the EGR valve's open much more than it should be for the amount of flow that it's measuring. So the vehicle has 18,000 hours, it's almost 5 years old, and it's never had the depth sensing housing off. I'm sorry, the EGR sensing housing off. And so if you look up on top of the engine by the valve cover on an ISX, the EGR valve's got that great big pan on top of it, and right in front of that, towards the front of the engine, the next section is the EGR differential pressure sensing housing. It has a lot of small ports in it, and we're going to take a look at a video of how to clean one right now.
We're taking these off, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that big one I got?
Okay. Look at that. See how the carbon's in there?
Yeah.
Notice that's at an angle, it's not straight down in. So there's a hole in here that goes from there over to there. See right here, the bump?
We'll blow that out with air.
Yes, we'll blow it out with air. You gotta be able to blow through all those holes.
Yeah.
Did you ever buy these green O-rings?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, I know I have before, but I don't think.
So once we finished brushing that housing out, we just blew shop air through all the ports, and then we installed a new EGR differential pressure sensor. You can't put that on backwards. There is a raised boss on the housing where it mounts, so it'll only go one way. And they did that because people were putting on backwards, and then it was really overflowing EGR, and you had faults. And those green O-rings are a square cut round O-ring, and they are expensive. I think they're like 15 bucks a piece. But you have to change those O-rings, and you have to take Scotch-Brite and clean off the pad where those O-rings seat so that they seat and seal. Did you notice those O-rings were stuck on there? That's how they're supposed to be, because you don't want any air to be able to flow up through that differential pressure sensor. If you notice, when we took the sensor off, the top of the O-rings were all sooty. That's because they never sealed in that housing, and the EGR flow was actually coming up through and leaking through. That's why the differential pressure sensor filled with soot. Once it fills up with soot up inside of the housing itself, you can't tell if the small holes in there are partially plugged or not. So you got to replace that sensor. You can put the old one back on if you want to, but if it's got a plugging up in there, it's not going to sense EGR right, and you're going to do a lot of work and still have a problem and think you fixed it. That's even worse sometimes, because you'll move on to look at something else when the original problem is back over here. So that's cleaning that housing is pretty easy. It's held down with two clamps, and it's got O-rings between the joints, and you can use those O-rings over their big black O-rings, and you put the pipe plugs back in that you take out. You do not need to change the O-rings on those unless they look cut. And we installed two new sensors, and the two sensors on there are the EGR differential pressure sensor and then the exhaust gas pressure sensor. And in fact, it used to be the same part number as the other one that's up by the exhaust manifold, that sensors from that tube coming out of the manifold. They were the same part number. So we put that back together, and now we know that we're correctly reading EGR flow from our cooler. Thanks again for joining me on Engine Shop Joe.